We're going to talk about Shabana Mahmood because she is the Home Secretary that is announcing these rather, quote unquote, draconian new measures to curb immigration. And there's just a couple of clips we wanted to talk to you about because she's been out and about over the weekend with this announcement, trailing it on the broadcast shows. But what's very interesting is looking back at some of her previous rhetoric when she was a backbencher, a lowly Labour backbencher. And I think there's an argument that perhaps the two of them don't quite add up. So let's just begin by we'll tell you what's going to be in this legislation that she's going to be placing in the House today. What's been trailed so far, Sean?
So the government are planning to tighten restrictions on asylum seekers and refugees. Top lines really being we're having the review of an application from 5 years to 2.5 years. So effectively doubling capacity, you would hope, of the Home Office in their assessment of asylum applications and refugee statuses.
At enormous cost to the taxpayer, I imagine.
One would imagine that. You are also going to have a system where refugees rather will be sent back to their home countries if the British government deems that country a safe country at any point in the future. A 20-year ceiling on becoming being eligible for indefinite leave to remain.
So I imagine Sudan's going to be getting a huge cash injection then. That foreign aid budget's going to be
Well,
increased significantly, no?
it's going to be fantastic for Sudan, isn't it?
And the fall of the
Sudan are
Taliban in
shouting.
Afghanistan we hear on the horizon.
Well, I mean, this is the thing, isn't it? At what point is Afghanistan going to be considered a safe country for any Afghan refugee that's in the UK?
Well, I think that the other question is, at what point is the UK going to be considered a safe country? Because if you are peddling this sort of narrative of you'll go home, in quotes, at some point in the next 20 years,
this is not home.
This is not home. And at what cost to social cohesion? What cost to people's mental health? What cost to the local economy or wider economy? If people are always people who have received temporary settled status here are never really brought in to being British. All of the issues that anti-immigration voices tout, I think this will engender. I can't really see how this would be beneficial to anyone. Can I just talk about one of the pieces of legislation quickly, which is the sort of, in Denmark, they're sort of called these ghetto laws, right? So there will be, if an area is deemed to be overpopulated by someone of a particular nationality, those areas will be broken up, people will be moved. We haven't heard yet whether that's going to be one of the pieces or cogs of that legislation that's modelled here. But one of the more, I would say, pretty disgusting and draconian measures that is in that Danish legislation, seizing people's jewellery when they arrive, that was trailed to the Sun. I think it's really important what I've just said there, that was trailed in the Sun. That's what they chose to put in the Sun newspaper, that asylum seekers will have their jewellery taken from them and sold in order to pay for their accommodation. That's what the Sun was reporting. So what? That means someone who comes over here with a wedding ring, someone might come over here with their great-grandmother's necklace, taken, sold to pay for their accommodation.
Heirlooms pawned off just because you're in a desperate situation.
I find that really frightening.
It's disgusting, more than frightening in my eyes, to be honest. It's as if asylum seekers were not dehumanized enough already. Like, they're housed in accommodation that they're not allowed to work from. They are left in a terrible situation, could be for years on end, to sit and wait for an application to be processed. In that time frame, continuously demonized by the media and politicians of the country that they're attempting to have refuge in. And now, moreover, any memory that you have of a better time is going to be taken away from you and pawned off. It's heinous, I think.
Well, yeah.
But no, there's far more. There's what else have we got? We've got the idea that there are going to be safe routes put in because like, what are we talking about? Safe routes that the Conservative government proposed however long ago and consistently proposed. Safe routes that Labour proposed in their election manifesto and have not yet delivered. So
I love
what
this
safe
farce
routes?
of safe routes. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like absolutely there should be a safe route. There should be a
Uh-huh.
way to
Do it.
make an application. I still cannot get over, and I think I've beaten this drum to death, that there was Macron did propose to then Home Secretary Priti Patel about a processing centre in
In
Calais
Calais.
before people made that dangerous crossing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was vetoed because it might be seen as a pull factor. It's all like you can fabricate, pull, push, whatever. The number of people who have made that dangerous crossing has increased. The number of people who have died on that channel has increased.
Mm-hmm.
At what point do you say someone is culpable for the people or the children specifically that died in that channel trying to get to a safe country?
Mm-hmm.
And do you know, I actually think one of the most a way for me to test someone's intellect is when if they spout the France is a safe country. Diabolical.
Uh-huh.
Diabolical.
Have you ever been to France?
Yeah, I've ever been to France. No, but quite seriously, if you are a refugee fleeing war and you are in France attempting to get to the United Kingdom, it's likely because you speak English,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's likely because also France has a pretty serious racism problem. And as someone who's been to those camps and those areas, I'll tell you it is destitute and it's dire.
Mm-hmm.
And well, look, it actually makes me quite upset.
Mm-hmm.
Look, let's play this clip of Shabana Mahmood in 2017. Here she is remarking on the UK being extraordinarily prosperous, and she's talking about Bangladesh housing nearly 1 million refugees, while the United Kingdom has not been as generous.
I was just reflecting, Madam Deputy Speaker, on the fact that in this House we've had so many debates about whether we as a nation should take a few thousand unaccompanied child refugees from the ravaged land that is Syria into our nation, one of the most prosperous on earth. And there you have Bangladesh, one of the poorest nations on earth, now housing 800,000 refugees. I don't know that we can say that we would be so generous, Madam Deputy Speaker, if we face the situation that the Bangladeshis are facing.
Okay, so let me now play you this clip. This was Shabana Mahmood yesterday on Laura Kuenssberg. Is that right? Is that the one we're going to play? Yeah, so here she is yesterday.
This is a big moment for the government, big moment for you, not long into your tenure at the Home Office. Let's start with then this notion that refugees would have to be here for 20 years before they can stay here for good. Is it possible that you could have a life here, a job here, maybe kids going to school, a family here, then after 19 years, if your country is then considered safe, you get booted out and sent home?
Well, look, I think that firstly, it is important that we deal with illegal migration into this country. It is an issue that is dividing our country, and I see this polarisation all over the country, including in my own constituency. We have a system that is out of control, it's unfair, and is putting huge pressure on communities. So it is important that we restore order and control to this system so that we can retain public permission and public confidence in having an asylum system at all. And that is what my reforms are designed to do. And because of that, we are looking to reduce the number of arrivals into the country, increase the number of removals of those who have no right to be in this country, and alongside that, as we restore order and control, to create new, safe and legal routes for people fleeing peril all over the country, all over the world.
But if somebody has come here for the right reasons, they've come here, they've settled here, they have a family here, they have a job here, their kids might be in British schools, after 10, 15, 19 years, up to that 20-year moment, at any point the Home Office might say, you've been here, sorry, your country's safe, go.
Well, what the new reforms will do is change that generations-old assumption that sanctuary provided to refugees can very quickly lead to permanent settlement and all of the rights that go alongside that. We will be changing that to a more temporary process, and the situation will be assessed every 2.5 years. So if your country becomes safe in that intervening period and you are remaining on this essentially core protection model, you will be returned to your country, because we see countries that have started off in conflict and people have moved in order to escape that conflict becoming safe. So I think that is right.
Now, Sean, I would say there was a bit of a change in tact.
It is interesting how quickly someone's compassion can disappear when status comes into play, you know. What are we saying? In 2017, she wasn't even in shadow cabinet.
No, she would have been on the backbenchers.
Yeah. So you're having a quite reasoned take on the global asylum system. It is fact that the most underdeveloped countries in the world and the most economically for want of a better word, economically precarious countries in the world are housing the most refugees. Lebanon, something like one fifth of the population of Lebanon is refugees, mainly from Palestine. Bangladesh, there 800,000. It is correct what she's pointing out. The UK is a prosperous country, a global north country that should, considering the impact it's had on these global movements and these the people who are seeking asylum, there is a responsibility on the United Kingdom to the people of these nations to provide them with refuge. To then yesterday turn around and say that this country is being torn apart. It is true that this country is being torn apart, but this sort of policy is going to tear it further and further apart. It is not going to unify the country whatsoever.
It's being torn apart because the Home Office is spending money in the wrong places. You know, because they are so frightened of when they first got into government, Labour, they blitzed through the asylum seeker backlog. And I think it was around 80% of asylum claims were approved. That didn't make hay for them in good headlines. If they were better at comms, they could have explained to the public of, we have taken this many people out of direct line of the state. So we're not now providing hotel accommodation for them. They can now go and work. They can now move towards paying tax and becoming a settled citizen of UK society. Instead, they sort of shied away like little mice and said, oh, well, I'm sorry. It was just that, it was a humanitarian issue. And it is a humanitarian issue, but it's also a local government issue of people's council tax should not be spent on exorbitant hotel fees. And the reason they're spent on exorbitant hotel fees is because the government is too shy to approve their asylum seeker status.
We've also privatized the system, It has become a money-making scheme for people that run these hotels.
Do you think that anyone was staying in the Bell Hotel before all of this? The owners of the Bell Hotel submitted their application to keep that open to the council, kept resubmitting it when the council had told them to close down. They didn't do that because, look, I don't know. They did that because it was money.
Yeah.
Do you know how much money these people are making? And when they rent out these hotel rooms, they're not charging like a discount rate. Like most hotels will have to do like a quick, they might do like a 50 quid offer here and there because they've got to fill the room Monday to Wednesday when no one wants it.
Yep.
This lot are paying charging Saturday night fees every day of the week. Do you know what I mean?
Imagine owning a hotel and having it fully booked out every single day of the year.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about where you're going to get the next rush of people from. You don't have to liaise with whatever local community groups there are to like attract people to Epping so I can fill up my hotel.
Yeah.
You are guaranteed to have a full hotel.
You don't have to do karaoke night on a Saturday night.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. Your hotel's full the whole year through. So it benefits business owners. It benefits people that are, faceless piles of cash, essentially.
It is faceless piles of cash, exactly.
That are massive international conglomerate organizations that are running these other hotels that are not necessarily independently run ones. But then you're also talking about the security in these places. You're talking about the food, sanitation. All of these things are privatized.
Yeah, of course they are.
So we're like, if you're talking about a system of making it more difficult for people to come to the country in the first place, and making it more precarious a situation for them to be here. I mean, you made the point there that you exist in this limbo where you came from is no longer home. I would imagine if you're an asylum seeker, where you hope to gain refuge is where you consider home because you've been persecuted in your home country. you're now hoping to gain a better life where you now put down your roots. To then every 2.5 years turn around to that person and say, we might send you back. You're going to have you are living in a constant state of limbo. And to have that system alongside a system where you've got a constant flow of people going into the arms of into the invisible hand to sit there and become an asset for private capital. All of this is insane, and you're just further victimizing the people that are most vulnerable in the whole cycle.
And we talked about this at length actually in our sort of our longer podcast, which is the video for that is available on our Patreon, or for free on any audio platform wherever you get them. Spotify, iTunes,
Spotify,
whatever. Is it still
iTunes.
called iTunes? Apple Music?
Deezer's another one.
But the point that we were talking about there actually was the cash, the being paid in cash revenue stream that people fall into. And I was talking about the number of people I'd met in Calais who got in contact when they'd arrived in the UK. And they've been languishing in these hotels for a good couple of years now, waiting for their claims to be processed. And these people have come from Afghanistan. You know, these people, one of them, he brought his little girl with him. I'll never forget seeing that little girl's face over in France. It haunts me. It genuinely haunts me, this little girl's face. She was so cold, so little. He told me, this guy, maybe he'd been in the UK for about a year actually, when he told me, I think it was around Christmas time as well, that his wife had been shot by the Taliban because he was waiting for his claim to be processed and he wanted to bring his wife here. The point was he would secure somewhere and then she would come.
Yeah.
In the interim process, she was shot. Now he's working cash in hand because he's waiting for his claim to be processed. He can't legally work in the UK. So he's not being paid minimum wage. He's being paid cash, so he's not paying any tax. Who profits from that? Someone who is, quote unquote, legally here, legally certified as a business, and is able to pay someone on the sly, cheap, doesn't have to pay the national insurance contributions on that, isn't feeding into the system. These people are always at the behest of demonic forces, whether that be the private company that houses them in the asylum hotels, whether that be the Home Office who are reticent to approve their asylum seeker status, or whether that be the small business owner who's decided actually it's a bit cheaper to get him in than it is to employ someone properly.
Yeah.
No one gains from this broken system. And there's nothing in this legislation I can see that tackles that. This is a deterrent. This is not going to fix the issues that we currently have in Britain.
And to have a Home Secretary like Shabana Mahmood, who in recent memory would have campaigned on the antithesis of this legislation and is now just yesterday and this afternoon going to be cheerleading it. I don't know what it says about the Labour government.
But to
really.
appease who? Because you've got people like Mike Tapp down in Dover, right? And that is what you would call a quote unquote checkerboard constituency. It flip-flops between Labour, Conservative. It's mostly Conservative. It was Natalie Elphicke before that who defected to Labour, I think you'll all
that's
recall,
correct.
just before the election. Then it went to Mike Tapp. He is very pro this legislation. And actually, if you put this through, that is probably one of the constituents I could say might save it from turning reform at the next election.
However,
But
just
look at the
up
rest of
road,
the country.
the MP for Folkestone, Labour MP Tom Vaughan, I think,
Yeah, he was on Radio 4 this morning. I thought it was very
on Radio 4 this morning against the
Tony
legislation.
Vaughan, no?
Tony Vaughan, yeah, you're right. Against the legislation. So two constituencies very much aligned on what the hot button issue is, but MPs on polar opposites of the spectrum on who this is for, who it represents. I mean, Vaughan was kind of he was kind of airing the same thing as what we're saying, essentially, that this is appealing to a certain sect of society rather than looking at tackling a very pertinent issue in the country. And as much as you turn around and say, yes, look, the amount of asylum seekers coming into the country is, if you want to make that argument, fine. If you are someone like Mike Tapp that has a constituency that's very concerned about that, fine. But you need to look at the care aspect of these things rather than just it just seems like it's a headline grabber rather than,
It is a headline grabber rather than a solution.
yeah.
The whole thing just blows my mind. Again, we spoke about this more at length in the longer podcast, but it doesn't make sense to me why you have these people languishing in hotels when you've got job vacancies up and down the country. You've got the people I know would be pretty happy to be retrained as a plumber and go work as a plumber. And I'm pretty sure most people don't care where their plumber came from when their toilet is exploding. Do you know what I mean? They
Yeah.
just want the job done. It just seems like a total misuse of public money
Yeah.
to sort of trap people in a doom loop rather than actually resolve some of the huge crises that we have in this country.